It was the discovery of the body of a 22-year-old woman on the streets of the Somali capital, Mogadishu, last year that brought into the open the problem of female drug addiction in the city. Health workers said she died from an opioid overdose. Friends of the social media influencer said she had been injecting drugs for a long time. They said she was high when she recorded some of her popular TikTok videos. Police have registered an increase in substance abuse in Mogadishu and elsewhere in Somalia, including among women. They say people are turning to new types of drugs. Whereas they used to chew the narcotic leaf cod, which is not illegal, drink alcohol, sniff glue or smoke hashish, more and more people are abusing opioids which they inject directly into their veins. These include morphine, tramadol, pethidine and codeine. Many patients say after surgery it is the small things that are the most significant to them, says Professor Simon K. a consultant plastic surgeon. Being able to brush their daughter's hair, take money out of a purse or turn on the tap and fill a glass of water, and to feel complete again. Or, in the case of former West Yorkshire pub landlord Mark Cahill, save his wife's life after she suffered a heart attack. Leeds, the home of the UK hand transplant unit, is the UK's only provider of this type of complex surgery. It is also now considered one of the leading hand transplant services in the world. It's an area of medicine that would have seemed implausible just a few decades ago. Mr. Cahill is the poster boy for this unit. In 2012, his right hand had become so badly infected following years of gout that it required amputating. China will scrap quarantine for travelers from the 8th of January, officials said, marking the last major shift from the country's zero-COVID policy. After 3 years of closed borders, this will effectively reopen the country to those with work and study visas, or seeking to visit family. But it comes as China struggles with the virus' ferocious spread in the wake of restrictions being lifted. Reports says hospitals are overwhelmed and elderly people are dying. The true toll, daily case counts and deaths, is currently unknown because officials have stopped releasing COVID data. Beijing had reported about 4,000 new COVID infections each day last week and few deaths. India's health ministry is on alert following a surge of COVID cases in neighboring China. The government has instructed states to ensure genome sequencing of all positive cases in the country. It has also asked state governments to step up efforts to curb any possible spread during the Christmas and New Year festivities. India witnessed two deadly waves of COVID in 2020 and 2021, but has seen low infection levels this year. According to government data, the country reports roughly 1,200 COVID cases every week. Over 2.2 billion COVID vaccine doses have been administered so far. U.S. federal drug agents say they seized enough fentanyl in 2022 to kill every American. The Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, says they intercepted 379 meters potentially deadly fentanyl doses, which is just 2 milligrams. The DEA described the highly addictive substance, which is 50 times more powerful than heroin, as the deadliest drug threat facing the U.S. The agency says most of the fentanyl is trafficked into the U.S. from Mexico. The DEA says it seized more than 10,000 pounds, 4,500 kilograms, of fentanyl, as well as over 50.6 meters fentanyl pills that were made to resemble different prescription painkillers. China has outlined the way it counts COVID-19 deaths amid skepticism about the real impact of the disease. It says the figure includes only those who die from respiratory illnesses, such as pneumonia. Officially, there were only 5 COVID deaths on Tuesday, 2 on Monday, and none in the previous 2 weeks. The counting method goes against World Health Organization, WHO, guidance, resulting in a figure that is way below the death toll in many other countries. The WHO says countries use different processes to test and report COVID-19 deaths, making comparisons between nations difficult. Honduras's first woman president, Xiomara Castro, campaigned on a promise to overhaul the country's super restrictive policies on female reproductive rights within 100 days in office. A year later, it's been announced that the morning after pill will be legalized, but in cases of rape only. Laura meets us in the hour after sunset, as the last of the day's light is quickly fading. She's 25 years old, 2 months pregnant, and not ready for a child. 2 months ago, I went out and met someone. I was not careful, I got pregnant, she says, wincing. It has been hard for me because I live alone. I am my own support. U.S. actress Selma Blair says speaking publicly about her multiple sclerosis (MS) diagnosis has had a major impact on her career in Hollywood. When I talked about it, there was so much support, but I never got a job again, she tells that 100 Women. Blair had experienced fatigue and speech disturbances since her youth, but doctors took many years to establish what was wrong. Her unexplained health issues led to years of feeling low, but she says she kept them secret. I was ashamed and concerned I wouldn't work again. Doctors often assumed the problem was psychological. Health officials say parents should be aware of an infection called Strep A, after children in the UK died from it. Since COVID restrictions eased, there are more opportunities for infections like this to spread. Cases have been increasing in recent weeks. While most people do not get extremely sick, the highly contagious bacterium that causes the infection can cause serious illness and complications. Health officials say parents should be aware of an infection called Strep A, after children in the UK died from it. Since COVID restrictions eased, there are more opportunities for infections like this to spread. Cases have been increasing in recent weeks. While most people do not get extremely sick, the highly contagious bacterium that causes the infection can cause serious illness and complications. Thousands of women in Greenland, including some as young as 12, had a contraceptive device implanted in their womb, often without consent, as part of a Danish campaign to control Greenland's growing Inuit population in the 60s and 70s. The Danish government has announced an independent investigation into this so-called coil campaign. Coil campaign. Accounts from women about recent involuntary contraception, amid growing calls for the investigation to go further. When Bebion was 21 years old, she went to have a coil fitted, only to hear the shocking news that there was already one inside her. Coronavirus modeling data will stop being published in early January, the UK Health Security Agency, UKHSA, says. Statistics covering the growth rate of the virus are currently released fortnightly, but the agency says this is no longer necessary. Chief Data Scientist Dr. Nick Watkins said this is due to the UK living with COVID-19 because of vaccines and therapeutics. COVID will continue to be monitored in other ways, the agency added. The reproductive rate, known as the R rate, refers to the number of people an infected person will pass the virus on to. We continue to monitor COVID-19 activity in a similar way to how we monitor a number of other common illnesses and diseases. A theatre company has been bringing festive cheer to care homes across Northern Ireland with a series of performances specially created for people living with dementia. Commedia of Errors nostalgia-filled Christmas shows feature classic songs and poetry. For many care homes, it has marked the return to face-to-face performances after the COVID-19 pandemic. It is such a joy to be part of, said theatre maker Benjamin Gould. The touring variety show, called Plays Aloud, has been visiting people in care homes and dementia care units across Northern Ireland. Over the festive period, Sam Jones would love to be able to hug his mum, but he's not sure if he can. The 35-year-old is one of an estimated 750,000 people in the UK with the serious anxiety-related condition obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. He has harm OCD, which means he has deeply upsetting, and very, very graphic, violent and sexual intrusive thoughts of harming others. Hugging some people, including his mother, can trigger those thoughts. The most painful thing is sometimes I really want to give my mum a hug and I can't do it and you just feel like a rubbish person because of it, he said. You really genuinely feel like you might cause some harm to them or something. He said it starts with a difficult thought about hurting someone. Play is how children learn to navigate the world, create relationships, manage their emotions and cope with stressful situations. There aren't many experiences more stressful than being ill and receiving treatment in hospital, yet many do not offer much in the way of play, despite this being a government requirement. When he was 3, he was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, a treatable cancer which demands hospital visits for treatments such as chemotherapy as well as lots of blood tests. I remember the first period of treatment, which was horrendous, his mother, Susanna Casanova, recalls. When he was having his first cannula, a tube which administers treatments, inserted, Susanna remembers holding him as he was telling her, "Mummy, how do you allow them to hurt me so much?" They are closing in on 500,000 COVID vaccinations in Dumfries and Galloway over the past 2 years. The area has one of the highest rates of delivery in mainland Scotland. Annan-based senior immunization nurse Jane Naylor has played a significant part in carrying out that program across the region. She has not kept count of how many people she has vaccinated, but it runs to thousands. "I've jabbed a fair few folk, put it that way. We were a very small team of maybe about 15 to 20 people," she said. "We worked quietly behind the scenes, vaccinating children, the elderly, every cradle to the grave. We were so small that nobody really knew about us. We just got on with it and protected everybody." That was before it all kicked off, and the team was switched to carrying out COVID swab tests in April 2020.